It's the 23rd of March 2026. This is a brand new edition of Newsfirst Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you tonight's bulletin for the Newsfirst team. I am Jayamal Ratnayaka.
And I am Hashni Patharana. First up is a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for Escalation Polygon by name.
Trump postpones military strikes on Iranian power plants for 5 days. Iran denies talks with the US, says Trump's claim aimed to lower energy prices and to buy time. IEA chief says no country immune from energy crisis. 11 million barrels of oil lost daily if Hormuz remains closed, warns IEA. Energy crisis disrupts daily life across multiple countries. Iran ready to supply fuel to Sri Lanka at any time, ambassador says. 37,000 metric ton diesel shipment to arrive in the island. CPC assures no fuel supply issue. Bus fares, three-wheeler fares increased. Bread prices rise by 10 rupees.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for Escalation Polygon by name.
The United States has postponed planned military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period as the clock ticked down on US President Donald Trump's 48-hour ultimatum demanding Iran reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In a statement, Trump said the United States and Iran have held in-depth, detailed and constructive conversations over the past 2 days focused on achieving a complete and total resolution of ongoing hostilities.
The United States has postponed planned military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period following what President Donald Trump described as very good and productive talks between Washington and Tehran aimed at resolving hostilities in the Middle East. In a statement, Trump said the United States and Iran have held in-depth, detailed and constructive conversations over the past 2 days, focused on achieving a complete and total resolution of ongoing hostilities. He said the discussions had taken place in a constructive manner and would continue throughout the week. Based on the tenor and tone of those conversations, Trump said he had instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for 5 days. The pause, he said, is subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has reportedly rejected US President Donald Trump's claim this afternoon that Washington has contacted Tehran to discuss a complete solution to the war. There is no ongoing communication between Tehran and Washington, direct or indirect, and Trump's statement is aimed at reducing energy prices and buying time to implement his military plans, Iranian media reported, citing a source in the Iranian Foreign Ministry.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says a potential deal with Iran is within reach, claiming Tehran has agreed not to pursue nuclear weapons, while hinting at possible changes within the Iranian leadership and expressing confidence that a breakthrough could ease tensions in the Strait of Hormuz and drive global oil prices down. Trump made these remarks while speaking to journalists next to Air Force One on the tarmac of the airport of Palm Beach, Florida.
They've all been killed. Very dangerous position. Khomeini was killed. Khomeini's son is unavailable. Nobody knows what happened to him. I can say they haven't seen him there either. Something is going on with him. But regardless, I don't consider him really the leader. But they do have some leaders left.
You said there's many points of agreement with Iran right now.
Many.
What, can you give us a
Many, like 15 points. 15 points.
Iran has said yes.
Well, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's number one. That's number 1, 2, and 3. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
Said yes to that?
They've agreed to that. Thank you.
What about the Strait of Hormuz? Who's going to be in control of that?
That'll be opened very soon if this works.
How soon? And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control
and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for. Look at Venezuela, how well that's working out. We are doing so well in Venezuela with oil and with the relationship between the president-elect and us. And maybe we find somebody like that in Iran.
Are you considering any more options to lower the price of oil while these talks?
The price of oil will drop like a rock as soon as a deal is done. I guess it already is today. No, we have a very serious chance of making a deal. That doesn't guarantee anything. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm not going to come out here in a week or 2 weeks and have you all say, oh, you said. I didn't say anything. All I'm saying is we are in the throes of a real possibility of making a deal. And I think if I were a betting man, I'd bet for it. But again, I'm not guaranteeing anything. They want to make a deal very badly.
It has been more than 3 weeks since the start of the latest conflict in the Middle East. The effects of the war are being felt in all corners of the world and across diverse sectors, especially the global energy sector. Let us now take a look at the very latest updates of this conflict.
US President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer discussed the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz during a late-night phone call on Sunday. Downing Street, in a statement, said that the two leaders agreed reopening the Strait of Hormuz was essential to ensure stability in the global energy market. The statement added that Trump and Starmer would speak again soon. The call came after Trump had sharply criticized the British Prime Minister and other European allies for what he described as their reluctance to assist the United States militarily in its war with Iran. Speaking exclusive to NBC's Meet the Press, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the tensions in the Middle East need to escalate to de-escalate.
Just to put a fine point on this, though, is the president in the process of winding down this war or escalating the conflict?
Again, they're not mutually exclusive. Sometimes you have to escalate to de-escalate, Chris.
Okay. NBC News is reporting that President Trump is considering sending troops into Iran. Will the administration use troops to secure the Strait of Hormuz or for any other reason, Mr. Secretary?
Again, as President Trump said during the press break yesterday when he was going out to Marine One, he's not going to give away what we're going to do. He's, as President Trump always does, he's leaving all options on the table. We had a very successful bombing campaign against the military installations at Karg Island, the nexus for all the Iranian oil supply. You know, what could happen with Karg Island, we'll see. And again, just to be clear, the command and control system of the Iranian regime is in chaos. This is Hitler's bunker. Hitler is dead. Himmler is dead. Goring is dead. Most of what you're seeing are lone wolf activities. The mid-range ICBM that was shot off, these 2 missiles yesterday, that's out of desperation, Kristen.
Ibrahim Zolfagahari, the spokesperson for Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya central headquarters, has issued a new statement taunting Trump as the US president's deadline for the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz draws near.
Hey Trump, you are fired. You are familiar with this sentence. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Iran has vowed to launch punishing retaliatory strikes if the US pushes through its threat to hit the country's energy grid should the Strait of Hormuz remain blockaded. Iran's Defense Council has threatened to deploy mines to block the entire Persian Gulf if Iran's coast or islands are attacked. It said that the only way to pass through the Strait of Hormuz for non-belligerent countries is coordination with Iran. It added that any enemy attempt to attack Iranian coasts or islands will lead to all access routes and communication lines in the Persian Gulf and coasts being mined with various naval mines.
Global oil prices fell following a statement by US President Donald Trump saying that strikes on Iran's energy facilities had been postponed and that talks were successful. However, the executive director of the International Energy Agency, Dr. Fatih Birol, warned that with a loss of 11 million barrels of crude oil supply, no country in the world can escape the impact of the global energy crisis.
Following President Trump's optimistic message, the price of London Brent crude fell by around 4%, while at one point prices dropped by nearly 13%. Foreign media also reported that US WTI crude oil prices declined by 5.5%. While Trump's statement had a positive short-term impact on global oil markets, the International Energy Agency issued a serious warning about the global energy crisis now unfolding. Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, says that no country will be immune to the energy consequences of the crisis, as shipments of oil and LNG flowing through the Strait of Hormuz remain stifled by an Iranian blockade.
What do you think the situation is with supplies, with the Strait of Hormuz?
The situation is very severe. I can tell you that. In fact, as it started some 3 weeks ago, I decided not to talk to press 3 weeks. But last Friday, I thought I should say a few things because I thought the depth of the problem was not well appreciated by the decision makers around the world. Let me explain you how challenging the situation is. Many of us remember the two consecutive oil crises in 1970s, 1973 and 1979. And at that time, in each of the crises, the world has lost about 5 million barrels per day. Both of them together, 10 million barrels per day. And after that, we all know that there was major economic problems around the world, the recessions. And today, only as of today, we lost 11 million barrels per day. So more than 2 major oil shocks put together. Plus, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the gas markets, especially in Europe, we lost about 75 billion cubic meters, 75 BCM. And as of now, as a result of this crisis, we lost about 140 BCM, almost twice. So the situation is, if we want to put in a context, this crisis, not only oil and gas, some of the vital arteries of the global economy, such as petrochemical, such as fertilizers, such as sulfur, such as helium, their trade is all interrupted, which would have serious consequences for the global economy. It is the reason I decided to make statements, and I understand now it is better understood.
Just wondering what you could tell us about the impacts to global energy markets and to energy supplies in the region if there is further reserving of refined fuel exports, and also do you have a message for nations that may be starting to reserve fuel exports?
I think this is the challenge we are facing is a global challenge. I think no country will be immune to the effects of this crisis if it continues to go in this direction. So there is a need for global efforts around the world. It is the very reason that we are, as International Energy Agency, talking with all the governments you mentioned, from the Chinese government to US government, the Middle East, here and in Europe, to make everybody come together and make their best to address this issue. So I think it is, of course, every country first looks at its own domestic interest, but in such a situation to have serious export restrictions without justification might not be something which gets plus points from the international community.
Situation in India.
Amid the global energy crisis, India was forced to raise fuel prices twice within the past 23 days. Major Indian fuel companies, including Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum and Hindustan Petroleum, are suffering heavy losses due to rising global crude oil prices and have been compelled to implement short-term price revisions to offset these losses. The Indian government has decided to restrict gas supplies to commercial users, including hotels and factories, and give priority to household consumers in order to prevent public unrest. As of today, the price of petrol in New Delhi stands at 96.7 Indian rupees per litre, which is approximately 323 rupees in Sri Lankan currency. In Mumbai, petrol is priced at 106.3 Indian rupees per litre, equivalent to roughly 354 rupees. In Chennai, petrol is priced at 102.6 Indian rupees per litre, while diesel is priced at 94.2 Indian rupees per litre. Fuel prices in India vary from city to city due to state-level taxes.
The situation in Pakistan.
Pakistan has decided to adjust fuel prices every 2 weeks based on global crude oil prices. As of today, the price of petrol in Pakistan is 282 Pakistani rupees per litre, which is approximately 317 rupees in Sri Lankan currency. Due to the fuel and gas crisis, Pakistan has cancelled its Republic Day military parade and celebrations. The Pakistani public service has been limited to 4 working days and schools have been closed for 2 weeks.
Fuel prices in the United States.
In the United States, the average price of a gallon of petrol exceeded $3.75 last Tuesday for the first time since October 2023. Economic analysts estimate that rising fuel prices have increased monthly household expenses for Americans by 15 to 20%. Foreign media also reported that public transport services, including buses and taxis, have raised fares across the United States.
The situation in Australia.
Over the past few weeks, fuel prices in Australia have risen to record levels, increasing by 25 to 30% compared to February. Australia imports nearly 90% of its liquid fuel needs, including petrol, diesel and aviation fuel. Australian Energy Minister Chris Bowen has stated that 6 out of 81 oil tankers expected to supply Australia have been cancelled so far. However, he has also said that adequate fuel stocks are available in the country until the end of April. To ensure energy security, Australia held discussions with the Singapore government earlier today, and foreign reports indicate that the talks were successful.
The situation in Thailand.
In Thailand, 57% of electricity generation depends on natural gas. Thailand is now facing not only a fuel crisis, but also an electricity generation crisis. There are growing concerns that electricity tariffs could rise sharply, potentially causing severe impacts on the industrial sector. Meanwhile, Thai security forces seized 20,000 litres of diesel and fuel storage equipment from a riverside warehouse in Mae Sot district, Tak province. Authorities suspect the fuel was being prepared for illegal export to a neighbouring country based on information received from local residents. The raid is notable as it took place while Tak province is facing a severe domestic fuel shortage.
Sailor Enterprises presents Russell Peters returns to Colombo for the Relaxed World Tour, 31st March 2026 at the all-new Lumina Hall in the City of Dreams, powered by the Australian Migration Consultants. Tickets out now on bookmyshow.com.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation states that there are no issues regarding the country's fuel supply and that there is no requirement for power cuts. Chairman of the CPC, D.A. Rajakarna, stated that the CPC and relevant authorities are currently working to ensure an uninterrupted fuel supply to the country.
A vessel carrying 37,000 metric tons of diesel is scheduled to arrive in the country the day after tomorrow. Additionally, a ship carrying 30,000 litres of octane 92 petrol and 5,000 litres of octane 95 petrol is set to arrive on the 27th of March, while several other fuel shipments under the tender awarded on the 17th of March are scheduled to reach the island next month. The details of these shipments are as follows. 2 ships carrying 37,000 metric tons of diesel are scheduled to arrive between the 6th to the 8th of April. 30,000 metric tons of furnace oil to arrive on the 12th and 13th of April. 35,000 metric tons of Jet A1 fuel to arrive on the 10th and 11th of April and 30,000 metric tons of petrol to arrive on the 16th and 17th of April. Meanwhile, the Civil Aviation Authority says that sufficient stocks of aviation fuel are available in the country until the 16th of April. Its Director General Daminda Rambukvella stated that the fuel required for small aircraft used for domestic flights is sufficient for 3 months. He further noted that orders have been placed for the Jet A1 fuel required for aircraft and avgas fuel required for domestic aircraft for future use.
Iran has assured Sri Lanka of its full support in the event of an energy or oil shortage, with Tehran pledging to provide oil and other essential supplies if the island nation faces disruptions due to escalation in regional tensions. Now, the assurance was given by Dr. Alireza Delkosh, the ambassador of Iran to Sri Lanka, in response to concerns over Sri Lanka's energy security should the current geopolitical situation worsen.
Sri Lanka shares a very friendly relationship with Iran, and Iran has also historically been a significant supplier of oil to Sri Lanka, especially crude oil, in terms of the oil. And now, in the event of the current ongoing situation, if this situation escalates in the future, Sri Lanka may face a challenge in getting the necessary oil supply, and even would have a problem in procuring the necessary oil if Sri Lanka goes into a shortage. In such a case, will Iran step up to help Sri Lanka out of the fuel shortage, and will Iran step up to provide the necessary supplies of oil to Sri Lanka in case of such a shortage?
Definitely, your answer is yes. Sri Lanka is our friend country, and as I told you, Hormuz Strait is not close to our friend country's vessels. Because of that, Iran always is ready to provide all necessities of friendly countries like Sri Lanka. And in any case, if Sri Lanka demands oil or any other necessity goods, Iran will supply and provide these goods to Sri Lanka. We don't want to see Sri Lanka in a trouble. And nation of Sri Lanka is very esteemed and respected people to Iran.
Questions were also raised today on the public absence of Iran's newly elected Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Ali Khamenei.
The newly elected Supreme Leader of Iran, Mojtaba Ali Khamenei.
Yes.
He has not made a public appearance after he was elected, and as we all know, there are hundreds of rumors going around about his situation. Can you comment on that as well?
He had some messages in our New Year, and he's doing his job. You know, every day we have a new terror in Iran. One of our authorities assassinated with Israel and United States. So selecting the new commanders, new authorities, all of these issues be done with our new supreme leader. But for security consideration, we cannot have our supreme leader in public because they don't have any limitation to assassinate anybody.
Iran has rejected claims that its naval vessel IRIS Dinner was warned before it was attacked, insisting the ship was on a peaceful mission and had received no advance alerts.
On IRIS Dinner, was it warned by the US before it was attacked? Second question is, there was a story about this 11-hour waiting, which the Irish Dinner requested permission to enter before 11 hours was attacked. How good?
According to our information, my military attaché is here also, and he can explain after the session to you. According to our information, Dena was not ready for war, and it was not here for war. It was not here for conflict. It was participated in peaceful exercise in India. And during presence in India, this vessel with two other vessels were invited, I repeat it, invited by Sri Lankan side to come here. And just they came here upon their invitation. And when they were here, they didn't receive any alert in advance from United States. They attacked it without any war, without any alert. And because more of these killed people are not armed army. They were music group, the music band. Their weapons were saxophone and violin, and they were killed. 104 people without any alert. We are thankful from Sri Lankan government to have very good hospitality from remains of Dena's personals and other vessels that most of them are cadets, and right now they are here. And Sri Lankan government is very hospitable country about them, and we don't have any issue and problem. We are working to take them to their country and their family as soon as possible.
Excellency, you said that, correct me if I'm wrong, and you said it was Sri Lankan government invited for these ships to dock in Colombo.
Yes.
And when was that? Could you just explain this time frame about these two incidents?
When was the invitation time? That during the exercise in India, your Navy commander invited from Iranian Navy commander to send these vessels to Sri Lankan's waters in order to have friendly visits. 3 of them. One went to Indian coast, and 2 of them came here. Dena, was attacked, and Bushehr is here.
Bus fares in Sri Lanka are set to increase by 12.19% with effect from midnight today.
Cabinet media spokesperson, Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says that as a result, the minimum fare would now be 30 rupees. That reflects a hike of 3 rupees. The general public faced severe difficulties from this morning as a result of the Interprovincial Private Bus Association's bus strike that was in place from 6 p.m. yesterday, demanding that fares be increased amid the recent fuel price revisions.
Commuters in several areas have been severely affected since this morning due to the strike launched by the Interprovincial Private Bus Association at 6 p.m. yesterday, demanding an increase in bus fares. Our correspondents reported that private buses were not operating on certain routes in several districts, including Colombo, Gampaha and Kurunegala.
This evening, certain buses on the 138 bus route from Maharagama to Petha were operated, while buses from Homagama to Petha and from Kottava to Petha were not operated. However, the Sri Lanka Transport Board had directed many of its own buses to operate on that route. Our correspondent stated that as a result, by this evening, passengers did not have to face much congestion as they did this morning. Private buses operating on the 138 bus route, which runs between Homagama, Kottava and Petha, did not operate this morning, causing severe inconvenience to commuters who depend on the route. As a result, passengers travelling along the corridor were left stranded, facing major difficulties in reaching their destinations.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ඩීසල් රුපියල් 100කින් වැඩි වුණානේ. බස් ගාස්තුව දාම් පොඩි ටිකට් එක රුපියල් 27යි. ඉතින් එතකොට දවසට රුපියල් 10000ක් විතර බස් එකට පාඩුයි බස් හිමියට. අපි ගමු රුපියල් 15000ක් 12000ක් ඔය වගේ ඉතුරු වෙන ගානෙන් රුපියල් 10000ක් ඩීසල් වලට වැඩියෙන් ගියාම අයිතිකාර මහත්තයාට මේ බස් එක නඩත්තුවත් කරගන්න විදිහක් නැහැ. අපි වැඩ කරන සේවකයෝ.
Despite the absence of private buses on the 138 bus route, Sri Lanka Transport Board buses operating on the same route were increased. At the same time, reporters noted that trains on the Kalani Valley Railway line, which runs parallel to the route, were overcrowded with passengers.
මහජනතාවගෙන් පරිගණන එක වැරදි. මහජනතාවගෙන් පරිගණන එක වැරදි. ආණ්ඩුවත් මැදිහත් වෙන්න ඕනේ මේවට. හමුදා ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය කරගෙන හරි මේව ඉවරයක් කරලා දාන්න. මිනිසුන්ගේ සහාය දෙනවා ඔක්කොම.
සමහර කට්ටියට මේව මෝඩ චූන් තමයි. ජනතාව අපහසුතාවට පත් කරන එක වැරදි. අතරමං වෙලා ඉන්නේ යාට යන්නත් කියන්නේ මෙහාට යන්න විදියට. ඒගොල්ලෝ ස්ට්‍රයික් කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. අපි වැඩට යන්න ඕනේ. අපි ජීවත් වෙන්න අපි දරුවෝ කන්න බොන්න දෙන්න ඕනේ නේ.
This was the situation at the Kurunagala main bus stand this morning as well. Earlier today, a bus operating from Kurunagala to Narayanpeta was attacked with stones in the Malkadua area. At the bus stand, a group of individuals attempted to prevent buses from operating. The officer in charge of the Kurunagala police station arrived at the scene and took steps to ensure that bus services resumed. Despite a strike action announced by the Interprovincial Private Bus Association in several areas, buses continued to operate in many regions.
Tel coupon එක කර 280 ගානට තිබ්බතෙල් අන්න ඒ ගානට අපිට දුන්නා නම් අපිට මේක කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. ඕගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ අපි සාමාන්‍ය විදියට රාජකාරී කරගෙන යනවා සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි.
The Sri Lanka Transport Board said steps have been taken to increase bus operations based on passenger demand. The board stated that the number of buses operating has been increased across the country, covering both major urban centres and rural routes to ensure uninterrupted transport services for the public. The All Ceylon Interprovincial School Children Transport Association is requesting a 10% price hike.
The government has taken steps to increase fuel prices by 100 rupees within a single month. Therefore, even though we are reluctant, we are compelled to implement a 10% fare increase effective from the 1st of April. However, we are making a request to our members, since the Sinhala and Tamil New Year is closing in, for the sake of the parents of the students you transport, if you can, bear this burden through April. So we ask you to consider implementing the hike starting from May instead.
Three-wheeler fares have also been increased effective from tomorrow. The chairman of the Western Province Road Passenger Transport Authority, Gamini Jasingh, has stated that this is only a temporary revision as a result of the hike in fuel prices. Accordingly, the fare for the first kilometre has been increased by 10 rupees, bringing the new price to 110 rupees. Then, the rate for every kilometre thereafter has been revised to 90 rupees, marking a 5 rupee increase from the previous rate. In addition, the president of the All Ceylon Container Carrier Owners Association, Sanath Manjula, stated that container transport charges were increased by 20% as of midnight yesterday. Furthermore, the price of bread and other bakery products have also been increased by 10 rupees. The president of the All Ceylon Bakery Owners Association, N.K. Jayavardhana, confirmed that the price hike will be effective from midnight today.
Move forward, Sri Lanka.
Former Minister Arjun Ranatunga and his brother Dhammika Ranatunga were indicted today before the Colombo High Court on charges of causing losses of nearly 800 million rupees to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. The charges were filed before High Court Judge Rashantha Godavela.
Indictments were filed for causing a loss of nearly 800 million rupees to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation by cancelling 3 long-term tenders that were scheduled to purchase fuel for a period of 6 months in the years 2017 to 2018 and instead implementing 27 spot tenders at higher prices and for aiding and abetting the same. The charges were filed under the Anti-Corruption Act. The accused were subsequently released on 2 sureties worth 5 million rupees each. The pre-trial conference in the case is scheduled to be held on the 15th of May 2026.
Are graduates ready for the industry? An experts panel discussion on the widening skills gap in Sri Lanka and the importance of preparing youth to be employed by diverse industries was held in Colombo today.
An expert panel discussion on the topic, Are Graduates Made for Industry?, was organised by the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, bringing together a diverse group of participants.
The opportunities of normal or the general public
for the normal people in this country was limited. So although they knew about knowledge, many of them did not know personally or had no way of knowing what science means and what is the importance of science in their life. So we at SLAS, through this CBS at all days, has done this job by promoting science among people. And then the focus have shifted. So that is why you all are gathered here, and this is actually going to be a discussion among stakeholders who train scientists, who are going to be scientists in the future. So they will learn things and then equip themselves to work in the particular fields in their working life. But more importantly, all of us prepare people for an industry. So industry is the backbone of an economy.
The event saw the participation of school students, university undergraduates and graduate students representing various academic disciplines and institutions across the country. Teachers and educators also attended, contributing their perspectives to the discussion.
Has Sri Lanka's cricket crisis been pushed into the background amid global turmoil? What action is being taken regarding the administration of Sri Lanka cricket, which has failed for more than 10 years to produce a team capable of qualifying even for a minimum of a semi-final in an ICC tournament?
The stated objective of Sri Lanka cricket is to transform the national team into the best cricket team in the world in all formats of the game. But has that actually happened? Or has our cricket truly disappeared? Regardless of whether becoming the best team was achieved, what has happened to Sri Lanka cricket is clearly visible when we look back at the past 10 years. According to the mission of the cricket institution, its role is to implement a national plan to develop cricket across Sri Lanka and to elevate the standard of the game. If such a national plan truly existed, would Sri Lankan cricket have reached this state? Over the past decade, Sri Lankan cricket has steadily declined day by day. Another key mission of Sri Lanka cricket is to make Sri Lanka the Asian hub of world cricket. But when these goals and missions remain nothing more than words written on paper, and when those responsible have failed to achieve them, it is clear that these cricket authorities have extinguished the passion for cricket among the 20 million people of this country. Another major responsibility listed in Sri Lanka cricket's mission is to ensure good governance through transparency, accountability and efficient administration. Yet, the so-called good governance related to transparency and accountability and the way funds meant for cricket development were spent has been exposed repeatedly through court proceedings and audit reports.
මේක high performance center කියලා අපි වෙනස් කරලා අපි දැන් වැඩ පටන් ගන්න යනවා ඉන්ඩෝනෙට්ස් 10යි turf wickets 10කුත් දාලා
This was supposed to be a high-performance center. We changed it and are now planning to start work with 10 indoor nets and 10 turf wickets. Initially, the agreement was signed on the basis of building a university. The decision to change the name to a high-performance center was taken by the executive committee after the last court meeting. The issue was that approval was needed from the University Grants Commission to use the term university. That is why we changed the name and converted it into a high-performance center. You decide to donate 50, but give only 25. The remaining 25, you haven't even decided whether to give it or not. In village language, that is called freezing it. This 25 million rupees. This is what forensic auditing means.
6 years later, what happened to the Cricket High Performance Centre that was promised? This is the current condition of the site where the so-called Cricket University was to be built. Audit reports have stated that Sri Lanka cricket authorities had failed to complete even basic infrastructure by the 1st of August 2019. Not only that, over time, we have shown how much money was allocated for this project by cricket authorities. Had proper solutions been taken to address these issues at the time, Sri Lanka cricket would not have fallen to this level today. As cricket administrators, the social contract you once had with the public has now ended. You have already turned your back on that public trust. What you have done will follow you. Do not forget, today, the entire country is united to save cricket. When will the law finally be enforced against this group that dragged Sri Lankan cricket into decline for more than a decade, unable even to fulfill the basic objectives and mission of the institution they controlled?
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.